Have you ever been in a situation where you get paid on Friday and by Monday your money is gone? Definitely been there. And what I realized was there's a number of things that I was spending my money on that just didn't matter or didn't make sense. So I'm going to share with you things that I stopped buying. And once I stopped buying them, I had more money left over. Now, before we get into the list, let me clarify something. This isn't about depriving yourself of things. I'm not telling you to never spend money or enjoy your life. This is about prioritizing and cutting back on the stuff that actually doesn't matter or add value, so you can focus on what really does. So you might actually not need to stop buying these things in the list, but I can guarantee you at least one will resonate with you. Subscription overload. You know those subscriptions that you get that maybe £10 here, £15 there. Each month you think these are actually nothing, I'm not going to miss it. But really, these actually all add up. I mean, I've been there where I've had things like Spotify, Netflix, everything, you name it, even gym memberships, but you end up not going to the gym, or I ended up not going to the gym. These all actually added up. These are all things that I thought I needed at the time, but I really didn't. So take Spotify as an example. I like to, when I'm driving, I like to have the window down, music playing loud, and basically because I think everyone wants to hear the music I'm listening to, right? So especially when you've got that fire playlist. But when I have Spotify, I don't have the subscription on it. So basically I have the ads. And when, especially when you're listening to, I'm listening to that fire song, and then when it ends, the ad comes on, and then it's like, do you need Spotify Premium? All of that, right? And then I get a little bit embarrassed because that's basically telling everyone that look, this guy doesn't have a subscription. But one thing I realized is I was actually saving a lot of money by not having that subscription. And really, that ad was what, a couple of seconds to a minute of my time of listening to that. You might think it's disruptive, or they might make out like it's disruptive, but it really isn't. You barely even notice it. So things like that you can cut back. And also with Netflix, I used to have the subscription where it was the full amount, but now I've dropped it down to where you've got the ads. So that actually, I barely notice it because when I'm watching something, sometimes I even fall asleep or I'm not even paying attention or wherever. So these things, you might think I need that subscription so I don't get the ads, but really think about the money you're saving. And that's something that you can save a lot over time. And if you want to talk figures, let's say Spotify, that's $10.99 that's going out every month. Now, if you save that by not having the subscription, and you can either save it up for the till the end of the year in a pot, and then you say this is how much it is, or if you want to donate that money to charity, or if you want to actually use that money for something else, the money is still there. So that's potentially a better usage of the money. But then again, you're not stopping yourself from listening to music. You're still listening to the Spotify free Trendy Tech upgrades. So let's talk about tech foremost. So fear of missing out. Every year there's a new phone, iPhone, smartwatch, or gadget claiming to revolutionize your life. But here's the actual truth. Most of these upgrades are incremental. So personally, I'm a very big tech guy, right? I love the latest gadgets, everything. Well, this was me before, right? I'll get the latest iPhone. It comes out maybe every year. Every year I get the newest one, but there's really no difference between the one I had to the one that I'm getting. But I'm spending all that money on getting a new one, whether it be a new contract or buying the phone outright. I'm spending that same money every year, and then realizing there's actually no difference. There's no need for it. And this is one thing I realized, that all the money I was spending, I actually needed it for other things. So I started cutting back on all these tech, getting the latest phone. So now what I do, for instance, with the iPhone is I wait for at least every 3 generations or 4 generations, because really that's where you see the biggest difference in the iPhone. Let's say from the iPhone, I went from the iPhone 10 to the iPhone 14. That's a big jump, but really there was actually a lot of difference between the two phones. So it felt like it was worth it rather than going from the iPhone 10 to the iPhone 11, where these differences are very subtle, if any. And just because they say in the launch that, oh, look, there's all these upgrades, all these gimmicks, all these new things to rope you into buying it, that's all marketing strategy, and it works a lot of the times, because guess what? People are queuing up, camping out the night before a new iPhone release or new iMac or whatever release, new tech release, camping out just to spend a lot of money. So these are things that if you bring back that money, keep it for yourself and put it in a pot and say, look, I was going to buy this phone, but if I'm buying it outright, let me put the money there. Or if I'm going to get a contract on it, whatever you're going to be paying every month, let me put that in a pot and then let it accumulate. You'll be surprised how much it actually accumulates to. And by the time you see the full amount, you've thought of a better use for the money, because guess what? You've taught yourself not to impulse buy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to bash people who get iPhones every year. But one of the benefits I can think of getting the latest iPhone every year is if you're a content creator and you need the quality, the camera quality, and to basically get the best visuals for it, then go ahead and do that. At least you're using that as an investment, because you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your work, you're trying to invest in the production quality of what you're putting out to your audience. But one thing that you can potentially do actually, and this is a great idea, I've just thought of it myself as I'm doing this off the top of my dome, right? Is the money, let's say it's $1,000 or £1,000 for the latest iPhone. Take that money and put it in an ISA. And you can do that every year. So think about it, every year you're basically maxing out your ISA, or you're putting a huge chunk into your ISA. And then by the time you retire, you've accumulated so much and you're like, wow. Whereas if you get the phone, a year later, it's depreciated in value. Fast fashion is actually sneaky. It's affordable, trendy, and fun to shop for, right? But it's also a huge money pit. I mean, me personally, I love fashion. I used to buy the latest clothes, the latest sneakers, J's on my feet, latest Jordans, Nikes, anything like that, right? Just so I can basically look good all the time. But one thing I realized is, especially with events, I'll buy the newest clothes just for an event. But one thing I realized is the clothes just kept piling up and piling up and piling up, and then it became overwhelming. And this is one of the downsides to always buying, as well as the other downside is your bank account. But one of the downsides I found was that the clothes just kept accumulating, the sneakers just kept accumulating, and I was like, right, there's no room for this. And when it comes to actually decluttering, it's hard, because I'm like, oh, I like this, and each of those clothing items was associated to a memory when I wore it, or an event or something like that. So it became hard to declutter, but really I was trying to buy more and buy more. So I started cutting back, and as well as looking at my bank account, I was like, nah, where's my money going? So I started cutting back. I decluttered. I gave a lot of the clothes away, like to charity and stuff like that. And then I started afresh, said, okay, this, I only get this if, or I only upgrade or get the next latest thing, or the next clothing item if that clothing item has got holes in it, or the shoes have got mouths where it's talking to you as you're walking. That's literally where I got to with some of my shoes now, or that's where I get to now. And guess what? My bank balance has been smiling because of it. And also, the best thing about it is that I don't impulse buy anymore. I don't get influenced into just, I need to get the latest thing, or feel bad about what I'm wearing, or having the same thing, wearing the same thing for months. Daily coffee runs. I know. This is a classic one that everyone talks about, but actually, hear me out. Spending £5 a day on coffee doesn't feel like much until you realize that's actually £150 a month, or £1,800 a year. I mean, I used to actually be really bad for this. Back in the day, I used to work in Starbucks, and in my breaks, I'll be making a lot of coffee. So it actually got me really, I would say, even addicted to coffee. And not just addicted to coffee, but addicted to Starbucks coffee. So when I eventually left Starbucks, I found myself going there every day. In fact, twice, three times a day. Even when I meet up with friends, or with the missus, or even with the kids, I'm like, dude, let's get coffee, let's get hot chocolate. And all this was actually adding up, especially now it's gone up in price. But all this was really adding up. So, and this is a sneaky one, because you don't actually see the money leave your account until the end of the month. And you're like, where did actually all my money go? You had plans for, you budgeted your money for something, but you've got a lot less than you budgeted for because of all these little coffee runs. So one of the things I did, or the main thing I ended up doing, was I went to the shop and bought, like, maybe a Nescafe Gold or whatever coffee you want, basically a jar of coffee, and then make my own coffee each morning. And the good thing about that strategy is that it's a one-off. You buy the jar of coffee, and that jar would last you months, rather than you're buying each cup that you just drink and you throw away. Or in the case where I do, I'm flying, traveling a lot, I'll buy one. I don't even get the time to finish because I'm running for my flight or I'm running for my train or whatever. So that's something that a strategy that you can employ rather. Just buy a jar of coffee. It will save you a lot of money in the long run, and you even be surprised how much money you have by the end of the month. Whatever you budgeted for, you might even have more, and then you can use that money for something else. Basically, another treat to yourself. Go to the cinema or something else that you do once in a while. Things that I personally actually stopped buying, and I saw a huge increase in my money, or even just huge retention in my money. I mean, you don't need to use all of them, but I guarantee if you use just one or two, you will really see that increase or retention in your own money. Because hey, nowadays the economy, let's face it, is tough on everyone. It's been tough on everyone for the last few years. And the last thing you need is to spend the money where you get for your pocket. So hold that money. It's better in your pocket than someone else's, the way I see, because guess what? There's always something that you really need that money for. You can put it in an emergency fund, the money that you've held back, put in an emergency fund, or put in an ISA investment, or even just save up for a big treat for yourself, whether it be a holiday, that food, wagyu, or whatever. Like just save up all of the money that you can do. Then you handle your business a lot easier and you don't even need to think twice. And the best part about it, you don't even need to stress about money. And also another good thing about it, you don't need to be making millions a year. Even if you're low income, mid income, middle class, or upper class, whatever class you are, or whatever, however much money you're making a year, or whatever your situation is, you have more money later on. And that's the whole point of this. And that's why I'm bringing these tips to you guys, because I personally have seen the benefit of this. I personally use this and I use them. And that's what this channel is all about, helping you guys make smarter personal finance decisions, investment decisions, whatever. If you've just come across this and these have actually helped you, or you thought these would help you, or they resonate with you, I would love to know your thoughts, guys. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, because if you think this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friend, there's a lot more coming. 2025, we're coming at you, so stay tuned. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.